lovely soul sisters. My mic is not working. Okay. Hello? Okay, we're back. Hello. La, 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 la. Camera one, camera two. Welcome to Yoga Bliss with Shelly. Hello, my loves, and I am Shelly. I'm here. We have shifted Awaken You with Shelly Vaughn to Yoga Bliss with Shelly. I just feel this calling to shift this. And it's so crazy. I was looking back, and when COVID hit, I actually started a Yoga Bliss with Shelly podcast that I completely forgot about. I knew I did it, and I think I lasted about 10 months, but we're here and we're back. And I really wanted to talk today about quitting, about pushing through when you want to quit, because it's so much easier to quit. So let us together, let's dive into what it means to persevere, to do hard things, and reach for the stars when it comes to ourselves and living our best life.
You are now listening to Yoga Bliss, and I'm Shelly, your soul sister friend. I'm a mama of three, a yoga teacher, a spiritual alchemist, a student of this thing called life. I'm here creating this collective of women to help us know that we are not alone in this thing called life, and that through different practices and through awakening to our heart-centered selves, that we can truly, my lovely soul sisters, live the life that we have always dreamt of, because this is our life. And I am huge on embracing our healing journey, our inner health journey. And part of that is embracing even the ugly aspects of ourselves as we heal from our past. We move into the present, embracing this lovely life. I'm so grateful to be a part of your journey. I love you. Let's get to it.
Hello, my lovelies. I'm going to take these off. I've been wearing headphones, and we're just going to take them off. Today, I just was chatting with my sister Amy on the phone, and she's been doing this thing called the 75 Hard. Have you heard of it? It is this pretty intense working out 2 times a day for 45 minutes. She is doing a grain-free diet, and it's reading 10 pages a day. It's this huge 75-day quest, and also no drinking, no alcohol, which that can be a challenge for a lot of people. And I think she was at day 41, and she was like, I want to quit. I really want wine tonight. I need wine. I want wine tonight. And I was like, Mimi, you do not need wine. You don't need wine tonight. I mean, obviously, if you really want wine, you can have wine, but you don't have to have the wine. And it was so interesting because her best friend sent her this video, and it was this couple, and it was them standing back to back, and the woman was in her sports bra and the gentleman was in his sports bra and pants. She had pants on, and she just had like the top half of her tummy showing, and then he was just wearing gym shorts. And their bodies were pretty average bodies. They weren't like overweight or anything, and it was really cool. It was like a, what is that called? Not Snapchat. TikTok. Amy and I were saying, I guess we're the only people on the planet not doing TikTok. Are you doing TikTok? I don't know. Maybe I need to. And it was a picture of them. It was a video of them on the sides, the back. They did a whole 360, and then they held hands, and then it fast forward 75 days later. And it was so crazy the way that their bodies have changed. And my sister has been sending me shots of her body and how her body has shifted. And we were just talking about how that it was about almost halfway point where she just wanted to quit. Like, how many times have you actually just like quit on yourselves? So many times. I feel like when things get really hard for me, I often just stop. And maybe in the moment, I'm not even like admitting in the quitting when the quitting is actually happening, but it's more of this aversion, this like, oh, I'm just not doing this. I'm just not going to do this. And I have really, just like watching her, it's been so amazing because her and her husband drink probably like 5 nights a week. They just have a glass of wine and a beer and just hang out. And it was so cool because at the first of the year, it was kind of their resolution was to do this 75 hard. And at first I was kind of questioning, like, that would be so cool if you did it, but maybe you'll do it and maybe it'll be really challenging for you. And just getting over that hump, that like craving. And it was so crazy that it wasn't until 40 days. That's over a month. That was like a month and a weekend until she was at that point where she was like, I'm just gonna quit. I can't do this anymore. And gosh, I think of so many times that I've been doing all of the stuff that I do in writing my book, Awaken You, and even writing, I've been off and on writing my memoir, Sister, You Are Enough. And I tuck it away, and I tuck it away because it gets hard or it gets overwhelming. And then I'm just like, well, hi, that's actually quitting. So what do we do? How can we help ourselves in these times where we're like, I just give up, I just quit? And I will always remember that one of my other soul sisters, it's my sister-in-law, told me that she's never given up on anyone as much as she has herself. And that she's always giving up on herself, and that it's just almost like assumed that we give up. And I think, especially as moms, if you're a mom, that it's just so much easier to detour and direct our attention towards our kids or our husbands or our house or our career than it is to ourselves. And so I'm here going through this kind of massive transformation with my online business, because I've had an online business, but I've never really thought of it like that. It's been like this kind of side hustle. I've taught weekly online yoga classes. I've had these big ideas, but really never had a strategical way on how to make money or attract income and expand and grow and help women, because I'm really excited. Actually, I finally came up with my mission statement, which it feels really good. Let me see if I can find it officially, because I do need to memorize my mission statement, right? Don't we need to memorize our mission statement? But I have it here. Oh gosh. Okay. I will have to find it. But I know that my main mission, hold on, I have to find it. I just am like really excited about it. I have been fine tuning. And that's another thing about being a writer, is sometimes being a writer, I feel like is really helpful, and other times it's not helpful, because I do all of these revisions and revisions, and I'm like, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And then I just don't land. And for me, that's been another way of aversion is to just not do it, or to just keep doing it and keep myself so freaking busy. Okay, I had a few of these, and I'm going to read them to you because this is what I did to my sister. Okay, do you want to hear? Let's hear the progression of all of the mission statements for Yoga Bliss with Shelley. I was just like really refining and retuning. We are on a mission to help women create a home practice that empowers and inspires health, healing, and love for us to live our best lives. Okay, that was one version. Tell me in the show notes or the comments what you think. Okay, here we go again. This one is very close too. We are on a mission to help women create a home practice that inspires and empowers health, inner healing, and love for us to live our best lives. That's another one. Okay, this is what I landed with finally. This is what I'm putting on the website, the membership site. I'm freaking making a membership site, even though I'm like, I don't really know what to do, but I'm just going for it. Okay. We are on a mission to help you awaken a home practice to inspire and empower your health and inner healing so you can live the life you were meant to. Yes, that one feels so good. I've been doing all of this research and really taking my own version of how to become an entrepreneur. And I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to start my own business. And a few years back, I wanted to open a birth center. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to open this birth center because I had a very traumatic C-section with my daughter. And then I had this beautiful home birth. And I know that for a lot of people, home birth can scare them. It can scare you if you've never done it. I was in the same boat until I watched my sister give birth to my nephew, Finn. And it was just beautiful and peaceful and serene. It was nothing like what I thought. I was like, oh God, it's going to be terrifying. There's going to be blood and it's going to be, and it was beautiful and organic. And my vision was to open this healing center. And then I did all this research and it didn't vibe. And I've had this deep desire to have this healing center. And then I shifted my YouTube channel to Awaken You Yoga Healing Center. And then I was on the phone with my sister and she was like, I love the idea of Awaken You Yoga Healing Center, but it's just like a mouthful. And then we came back to Yoga Bliss and she said, I just loved when you had the name Yoga Bliss. It's such this beautiful, simple name that just embodies itself. So within Yoga Bliss, it is my healing center still. This is that space that I'm creating. And it's just been this journey to trying to figure out all the steps. And I finally found this beautiful entrepreneur. Her name is Carrie Green, and she has, I think she's from somewhere in England or Britain, and it's the Female Entrepreneur Association. And it was just, of course, one of those things where when you're open, the universe just brings you what you need. And last week, I was like super sick. My whole family got sick. And I mean, I was like sick and in bed for almost 2 days. And I say, like, for me, that's a big deal, but it is really a big deal. I'm going to wear my glasses. This camera back here is making this nice little halo. If you see that, it's my lighting set. But I laid in bed and I watched probably like 40 hours of this female entrepreneur, and she was saying one of the biggest things that us women do when it comes to our businesses is we have all these ideas. Have you been a big idea thinker? I'm such an idea person. Like, I've always been like, woo, like I love ideas, but it's the actual like bringing it to life and then following the steps and doing the things that is hard. And then I'm like, and no, even like writing a book. How did I get through writing the book? Because I just decided. I'm like, I'm writing this book and the world needs this book, and I'm going to bring it into the world however that looks. And that's what I freaking did. And it took a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, but I just persevered and I did. And what I'm learning from this beautiful soul that I just like, all of these beautiful messages that I'm like, I take my little singing bowl. I just feel like we need a little, this like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And she was teaching us women that we don't always have to know exactly what to do. We don't always have to know what to do to follow through. But the thing is we can always acquire the knowledge. And think of any time in your life where you didn't feel confident about anything. I think of back to the basics of when I was first becoming a mom. I was like excited, and then I gave birth to my daughter, and I was healing from a C-section. And I think that our country has so normalized it that it's just like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's a freaking big deal. It is a stomach surgery. It is severe trauma, especially when you're a mom who has this plan to have a natural birth, and then who is in labor like me for an entire day and a half, and then has to get more medication administered to stop the birth, and then have this traumatic C-section. And for me, I died on the table for like, had this outer body experience and came back, and I felt like I was dead. And the first thing I said to my daughter was, Rex brought her over, and I was like, who's that? Who's that baby? And I said, take her away. Take her away from me. Those were the first words I said to my daughter. If I would have shared this story with you even 10 years ago, I couldn't even get through that story without massively sobbing and breaking down. I remember when I was pregnant with Milo, and I decided I'm doing a home birth, whatever it takes. I'm not going to experience that again. Like, this is what I'm doing. Like, this is just, it's not an option not to. I saw my sister's birth, and then I knew it. I knew it was something for me. I was like, I'm doing this. And then I found this beautiful midwife who would take me because I was high risk, because I was a VBAC, a vaginal birth after C-section. And the biggest risk is uterine rupture. So that means that when you're pushing your baby out, that maybe the cesarean scar way down low would rupture. But it's literally something really low, like 0.10%. It's literally the lowest percentage, which is so crazy because in America, where I live, they just are like, oh, you had one C-section, you're just going to have another one. Oh, you're just going to have another one because it's too high risk. Well, if you really do the research, I'm really big into doing the research and doing what feels best for me. So I did my research, sisters. I was like, I'm doing this research. And I did it. And I had that beautiful home birth, but coming back to, we sat in circle with women, and it was when I was pregnant, and there was other mamas who had had home births, and it was kind of like a birth circle, and it was a sharing experience. And there's these beautiful mamas like sharing their experience. And there was actually a mom who had a VBAC after a C-section, and her story was so beautiful. And then it came to us to have like the moms who were still pregnant versus the moms who had given birth already to share Junie's story. Oh my gosh, I would say I got like a minute in and just like hysterically sobbing and trying to wipe snot off of my face and get through it. And I was traumatized. It was a very traumatizing experience. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And so that, again, that started with an idea that I was like, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And at the time I did hair full time. I think I was like a little under full time. I was probably like 30 hours a week. And I remember the judgment that I got from other women. It was so sad. And like right now, I send so much love and compassion, but it was also just also inappropriate. And some women, I don't know if they were trying to be rude or just that was their instinct was, I can tell you maybe 10 times someone would say, oh my gosh, aren't you worried you're going to die? Are you kidding me? That was like, okay, I'm pregnant, first of all. I'm a mom. I'm making a choice for myself. If that is maybe a thought that you have, because maybe that was a thought that I had at one point, that's fine. You can keep that to yourself, maybe. And that was hard, but I had to just stick through and persevere and decide, like, this is what I'm doing for me. This is what I'm doing for my baby, because that birth, and the reason I'm sharing the story is because that birth was Milo, and I just had his 11th, we just had his 11th birthday. I can't believe it was 11 years ago. But that birth was this pivotal moment in my life because I went from the victim. I was always the victim. I was so sad. I literally was in bed with Junie for the first 3 months, like healing. I remember trying to walk down the stairs at my house and I would just bawl. I got addicted to Percocet and Vicodin. And I remember Junie was about 3 weeks old, and I remember looking at my prescription medication and I was like, oh, I can't do this. And so my sisters were amazing and they were always over, always helping me. And we got more drugs. They literally just gave me more drugs. And it wasn't as much the physical pain because yes, my stomach was healing, but I was just emotionally a wreck. And it was crazy because I nursed Junie with all of those drugs. Doctors just prescribed those to me. Well, yes, you can just have those. And it was really hard to get off of that. Like, I've never really considered myself a drug addict. I did become a little stoner for a while there for a few years, but I never really got addicted to drugs. Well, that was until I did. And they were all prescribed. I never had to like black market, try to buy them in the back of someone's car or anything like that. I was just, it was really challenging. And that birth of Milo was like, I love reflecting on birth stories and just really using birth to transmute into our lives and the growth that came from it, sisters. I can't even, it just is like, whoa, it brings tears to my eyes. And it also just reminds me of the strength that I had within me that I didn't really know was possible. And Milo's birth was beautiful, and I'll share the link because actually Yoga Bliss with Shelly used to be Storybook Sisters when it first started, and I actually shared Milo's birth was the first video. I made this video of just like clips of the birth with music, and there's like a little bit of text on the screen, and I think it's about 10 minutes long. And the birth story was crazy because in the morning, I remember I took a shower with Junie and I was getting ready to put her down for her morning nap at like 9:30 or 10. And I got her for her nap and I was chatting. My sister called and I like was chatting with her, and I was like, I was 38 weeks and 2 days. So if you are a mom or not, you are usually full term is 40 weeks, and people say 9 months, but you're really pregnant for 10 months. I think just 9 months because you usually don't figure out for that first month. But I was like, God, it's so annoying. I keep peeing myself. I don't remember peeing myself every day with Junie, like at the end. And I was like, I guess it's just that my belly's so big and it's pressing on my bladder and I'm just peeing myself. And my sister Jenny was like, Shelly, are you sure your water didn't break? And I'm like, no, it's just like little bits. And so she got me thinking, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to call Carol, was our midwife at the time. She actually delivered Jenny's baby maybe 6 months before that. No, Finn, 9 months. No, 6 months before that. It's hard to think of. All these kids are like almost teenagers now. It's crazy to come back and share the story and reminisce. And I called her and I explained everything. And she said, you know, it could be a slow leak in your sac. Because usually what happens is we hear or we see on movies, people are like, oh, my water broke. The gates flood. With Junie, my water never broke. They popped it. And with Milo, what happened was, yes, a slow little leak. So a little tear happened. And then I just kept like, I thought I was peeing myself. And my midwife came over and she checked baby and checked his heart rate. And then she had this lithium paper and she checked the fluid and did confirm that my water did break. But I was only having like one little wimpy contraction an hour. And I was like, this is interesting. And with Junie, I was pregnant till 42 weeks. So I was 10 and a half months pregnant. And in my brain, I was like, I'm going to be pregnant for another month. Like, there's no way. And it was so interesting because I thought Milo was a girl. And at the ultrasound, when I found out it was a boy, I started crying because I was like, I don't know how to be a boy, Mom. I have 4 sisters. I have 3 stepbrothers, but I didn't grow up with them. I didn't see them for like 8 years growing up as a kid. And I was like terrified. I didn't know what to do with a penis or a boy. I had this weird perception. The universe gave me 2 cents for a reason, people. And that birth story was crazy because I did not go into labor. I did not. My midwife, she went home because I was like dilated to I don't know, like nothing, like a 2, like, and dilation, if you know, it's like your finger. So 1 finger, 2, 3, all the way to 10. You want to be dilated to a 10, and then your baby gets effaced, and then their head is down, and the baby's ready to come down and out. And one of my big fears of birth was that I was going to have to get a C-section again because I didn't want to have to go through that. And then another fear that I had during this birth was I wasn't going to know how to push my son out. It's funny, this episode I was talking about ideas. It's probably not going to be about a birth story. That's where we're going, and I'm feeling excited because I haven't been motivated to share the story. And yeah, my sister Jenny came over with Mavie, and Mavie was 6 months old. No, this is not Mavie. This was Finn. Finn was 6 months old. It's crazy to think of. Mavie wasn't even born yet. And she had 2 other boys at home with their dad. And I had a big birth pool, big, giant, gorgeous birthing pool that we borrowed from my sister's friend Shay. And it was so comfy. It was oval shaped and there's handles. And I mean, it took so much water to fill it up and you couldn't heat it up. So you just had to take the hose from the kitchen sink and then fill it up. And then we didn't have a name for Milo. Milo's name, his middle name was just James. James Bond. James after my dad, James J. Opperman. And he didn't have a name. And I remember we sat in the birthing pool that night, and there's a little bit of video. And we were sitting there, and I actually had a beer to relax me, which was like the best thing that I could have ever done because I was so like wound up. And it just helped to relax me that night. And then my labor just like wouldn't come, and Jenny woke me up. I was like trying to go to bed that night. She's like, Shelly, I really think we need to go walk. Like, you need to walk. We need to go kickstart this labor. Like, I was group B strep positive, which means it's this strep in your vagina and your butthole that you can transmit to the baby. And the rules and regulations say you only have 24 hours from the time of like rupture to be in active labor to have your baby before it's not safe. And it was so wonderful because Jenny and I, it was like dark and the moon and the stars were out, and I was like, I think I had so many farts and she was farting. It was so funny. We were like, this is the fartiest, funniest walk. And we were doing squats and walking, and my labor would just like not come. I'd get little tight contractions, and then it was just like nothing. And this was just like, what is happening, body? And we get back from this walk, and I'm like, I'm going to go lay down. And I go lay down, and I just like restlessly am like kind of sleeping and half not and barely having any contractions, even though the clock is ticking. My tear is leaking fluid here and there. I think I was wearing one of those like diapers. You will know if you've had a baby. Yeah, you wear the diapers, like the mama diapers. And I got woken up early in the morning, and the sun was just rising. It was still really dark, and the windows were drawn, and my midwife Carol and I said Marta was her assistant, and she had us sit in a circle with me and Jenny and Marna. I can't remember her name, excuse me. and Carol, and she said, Shelly, what's your biggest fear? We're going to do a fear circle. What is your biggest fear? And I just was like, what do you mean? She said, what's holding you back? What's holding back your labor? And I sat there and I was like, I guess it's I'm going to have to go to the hospital and have a C-section and go through all of that pain again. And I just melted down. And it was this like, I could feel all of that bubbling up. And we're sitting in the dark in a circle. It gives me goosebumps everywhere. And with one candle lit and the candle's in front of me. And I just let it all come up. And then my other fear that I released was that I wasn't going to know how to push out my baby. I don't know how to push him out. I don't know how to give birth because I never had done it before. I had, tried to birth, and then I felt like I failed at that and had to have this big intervention that was really traumatizing. And it was like the sun started rising, and then we like held hands and we sent prayer and love energy to me and to Milo for him to come out. And his name wasn't Milo quite yet. And we sat there, and then it was like, and I could feel it was like this, like, this energy that was just like lifting off and away. And then I just stayed awake that morning, and Junie woke up, and it was almost just like a regular morning. It was like me and Rex were there, and the midwives were there, and then Jenny was there. Like, there's a video of like Junie's watching her show, and I'm like feeding her with a giant belly. And I decided that I had to let Junie go to a friend's house because Junie was just like so attached to me, and I couldn't focus on myself. And as much as I wanted her to be there, it was holding me back. And so it was like, once we sent her to a friend's house, the labor just didn't progress. So we tried all of these different tinctures, like black and blue cohosh. And I did this like disgusting, like it was literally like vodka with orange juice and some other tincture that was like supposed to make your labor go into labor. Oh, but what happened was I got disgusting diarrhea and I was puking, and I just felt like, oh, and my sister kept going, oh my gosh, you're having a contraction. I was like, no, I'm so sick. And so we had all of these tinctures, and the clock is ticking again and again and again, and it's ticking, and like, really, my labor is just like nowhere. Maybe little random tight squeezies that were like I could do something like Braxton Hicks contraction. And it was, I'm trying to think of what time, it was probably like 10 o'clock, and my midwife was like, Shelly, I need to talk to you and Rex. And she took us over in the corner, and she said, Shelly, it's just now getting dangerous. We're creeping up on time. There's nothing really I can do legally. We have to take you in to have the baby at home. And I was like, I felt like I was like, okay, if that's what I have to do, And then my sister shut off the camera, and I just freaking lost it, just like balled in a circle. And actually, I'm forgetting, but our friend Shay was there with her baby Arden too, as like a birth support, like a doula. And I just was like, this is not fair. I want to have this baby at home so bad. Like, no, this is not fair. This is not happening. I can feel it. It was just like, oh, it's not fair. And then I just was like, I felt like I was like letting that go, just letting it go. And then finally, I was like, okay, if this is what I have to do to have this healthy baby, this is what I'm going to do. And I remember, like, I walked up the stairs and I looked down, and there was the car seat and like a bag that my sister had packed. And I was like, okay, I accept this. I accept that this is what's happening, and it's going to be okay. And so I walk up the stairs, and then I get up the stairs through the hallway, past the bathroom, into my room, and I get to the foot of my bed, and it was like, bam, baby. Like, we're in labor contraction. Like, I couldn't move. I had to stop. I had to, ooh, my birth sounds, ooh, swing, ooh. And at the time I was in pants, I think, and a sports bra. And then it braked, and I was like, okay, I have to get dressed. And then I was like, okay. And then I think I walked a few more feet, and then I got into the bathroom, and I'm like, oh, those like labor pains of like squeezy, like, no, you can't breathe, you can't move. Oh, and all of a sudden my sister pops up, and she's like, Shelly, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't want to go ride in the car. These hurt so bad. And she was like, what hurts? And then I have another contraction. And then she's like, I'm going to go get Carol. And then she goes and gets the midwife. And I have another contraction. They were like on like every 2 minutes from like once an hour. And they were like, bam, baby, like you are having this baby. Gives me goosebumps. And then Carol comes up and she watches me. Watches me. Yeah. And she's like, oh. And I'm, oh. And she's like, Shelly, I need you to get over here to the bed and let's check baby. And I need to check your cervix. And it's like so crazy because it went from like nothing, but I had this huge like emotional release and this moment of acceptance where I was just like, this is what's happening and it's going to be okay. And she checks me, checks baby's healthy, and I'm like dilated to like a 5 or a 6, like from like nothing. And it was like bam. And she was like, okay. And she kept going. Like, if the universe intends you can stay home, like, we're gonna watch you, and we're just gonna watch you. And I was like, well, it hurts so bad, can I get in the birthing pool? And she was like, I think that's okay. And so I think I get like halfway down the stairs, and then you could just feel the baby calming down. And then I'm like, that contraction broke, and I literally wobbled my waddly butt to the pool as fast as I can for another contraction. And it was crazy. We were probably like an hour in, and it's happening every minute. These just like so painful. And then I almost just like put out of my mind that we're going to the hospital. Like, I'm having this freaking baby right now. And at home, I think sometimes that we have this false perception. We're like, oh, it's a home birth. It's natural. It hurts. It's painful. It's hard work. It is like a life marathon, the hardest marathon of your entire life that you'll ever run. But you're doing it, and you're still, and you just have to accept. And it's like my belly just become rock hard and just, and my affirmations or my mantra was love, peace, love, peace, love. Maybe there was one more word that I can't think of, but those were the words I kept saying. Love, because I wanted to love my baby, and I wanted him to come into the world peacefully, because I wanted to give him the gift of having a peaceful birth, even though it was painful. My sister would say that to me. My sister Jenny got in the pool with me, and her beautiful friend Shay, who home birthed 2 babies, and she had 2 hospital births, 2 home births. Jenny had 2 hospital births, 1 home birth, and then Rex was there. But my husband Rex gets very quiet and like afraid of birth because he's never experienced it. So he was around, but he was kind of hiding. And Finn was there, and Arden was there. So there was literally 2 babies at my birth and 2 midwives. And I mean, this birth was just like a miracle from the universe. And I'm in the birthing pool on my knees, hunched forward. You have to watch the video. Watch the video. I will attach it in the link in the show notes. And she gets down on her knees, and you could see in the video, and this moment was, I was in deep a contraction, like, oh, and then she whispers, Shelly, I have to tell you something. And I was like, what? And I look up out of it in between, and she says, Shelly, you're going to have your baby at home. I said, what? And I hugged her, and she said, like, God willing. And I was like, oh. And then my sister said, what did she say? And my friend said, what'd she say? And she said, I can have a home birth right now. I get to have it. She said, as long as you are in active labor and this is happening, you are having this baby at home. And this baby, I tell you, Milo, who's now 11, was crazy. It was painful. It was this journey. There was a point where, of course, I was like, I can't do it. I wanted to quit. I was like, I want to quit. There is nothing better than birth to teach you. You don't get to quit. You don't have that option. Like, this baby is coming out. You want this baby? This baby is coming out, sister. And it was so interesting because that fear of me not knowing how to push Milo out, I actually did start vomiting, which is like a sign that you're ready to push the baby out, because in the movies, we're trained from the movies, okay, it's time to push, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, people are doing that. In real authentic birth with no intervention, no medication innately that I have experienced, because I've experienced 2 of my own home births, 2 sisters' hospital births, 2 sister home births, another sister home birth. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 births. I've been to 8 births, including 3 of my own. That my body just, I was throwing up, which is also this, like, you think of when you throw up, it's like deep down in your guts and your belly. It's actually really helpful. And then my body just starts making these like masculine, like sounds like that. I had no control over it. It was just what was happening. And I was at this point of just, I was doing it. And there was this beautiful moment where my midwife said, surrender, Shelly, surrender to the pain. And I remember holding and I was squeezing and I kept going, oh, I was making these weird noises, and she was like, change that to a softer surrender. Oh, this was actually before the birthing grunts, the pushing grunts. It was this beautiful moment that taught me that even when you're in the depths and the throes of the most pain that you've ever experienced in your entire life, that you can soften, that you can surrender, and you can let go of your need to try to control. Because in those moments, me controlling myself and holding my shoulders up to my ears and fisting wasn't helping. But when I was able to soften and let go in the pool, we're in the water still this whole time, just like, and then this, and that happened a few times. And my sister Jenny was behind me, holding me, and she kept rocking me. And my midwife actually got a mirror out, and I'm just here and pushing, and it was like he had crowned. That means his head, like the very tip top of his head is like coming out. And then I remember I was like, it hurts so bad. And she said, if it's burny, stretchy, pull off. If it's burny, stretchy, pull off. Paint like a dog. So I just started going. She was like, just hold there until the next one comes. Because I was like, I'm just going to push him out. She's like, no, back up. That's how women like literally slice their vagina open. Like, just let your body do it. Your body knows how to do it. Trust your body. Trust that your body knows how to do it. And then the next one is like the ring of fire, where it's like the head is to here and your vagina is completely stretched around the head, and that freaking hurts so bad. It's so painful. And it's like, and you can feel it all. And you can feel it all. And then all of a sudden another push, and he was like shoulders, and then he just and he came out. And it was like, and he came out and his cord was wrapped around his neck. And it was not even this huge deal. It was like his cord. I held him down low, and she unwrapped the cord, and then we just pulled him up his little body, and then he was just here. And he was just here. And I'm laying there, and I'm holding him and just crying and just like awe and joy of just like, oh my gosh, like what? And we brought a towel over and just held him, and I asked for Rex, and Rex came around, and Jenny was right behind me, and it was perfectly imperfect. It taught me to persevere. It taught me how to surrender my need to control. And even though I still struggle with that, like, I think as a woman, control is our way of coping with everyday life, especially being a mom. Now that baby is 11, and he is hard. He is stubborn. He is a stinker pants, and he's 5 foot, like 7.5. He comes up to here on me. I'm 5'9". It's crazy. And wow, it's so crazy to just reflect and see that I'm like coming back to the topic that I was talking about, is ideas that I saw my sister have this birth, and after being so traumatized and so battered, and I literally let that first word that I said to my daughter take her away from me. It controlled me for so long. And I decided, like, no, this idea came and I just was like, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know who's going to be there, but I'm going to just do it. And this beautiful birth story was, it didn't end perfect because after Milo was born, I think someone held him, and my midwife wanted me to get out of the water and walk to the couch. So we were in the dining room and walked to the couch and deliver my placenta because I knew that you had to deliver the placenta because I'd seen my sister do that. And you think like, oh, you push out your baby. Well, the placenta, that's a whole other baby. And we get to the couch and I start like, what's the word? Hyperventilate, not hyperventilating. I like started having like hypothermia. I was like freezing from being in the pool water because the pool didn't have like a heating element, which hopefully nowadays there are birth pools that you can actually regulate the temperature, because if the temperature was regulated and was at a nice temperature, that never would have happened. But apparently being a gingers bleed a lot more. And if you come back to my first birth experience where I like died and bled out and it was really scary. My sister thought I was dying. My husband thought I was dying. Like it was very intense. And so my trauma, I had a physical trauma, I had an emotional and even a spiritual trauma that happened at that birth that we don't really notice, but my work with energy work and Reiki is that we trap these traumas and these experiences in our chakras. So for me, that was trapped in my root chakra, my ability to love, or my ability to feel safe and feel trust, and also in my creative and sexual center, because that's where babies are birthed from. That's where creativity is birthed from even, which is very interesting. And so I had this huge locky block that grew, and it actually manifested, if you've listened to my other podcast, that I'm healing. I'm doing incredible healing. This black like energy mass I had stuck in my calf that I legitimately feel like it's like there's only like 5% of it left. I'm finally 11 years later, or actually 13 years later, I've been allowing myself to let that trauma go and to heal from it and to move on. And the only way we can do that is by allowing and accepting these experiences, feeling that pain and allowing ourselves to feel in that. And then also there's these very empowering experiences like this birth with Milo. Oh, and so kind of backtracking a little bit, we get over to the couch. I'm like so cold, and I remembered being at the hospital and they would like heat up blankets. They'd give you warm blankets. I was like, can you just heat up some blankets? And so they put a bunch of blankets, and I was, and my skin just turned freaking just like, I don't know what 7 shades of white, like off white. And I was shivering, and then it comes time to push the placenta, and it was so interesting because when it came time to push Milo out, right, I didn't have to push. It was like, ugh. And they were like, push, and I was like, okay, push. And she was like, no, you have to hold your breath. You have to and bear down like you're pooping. And I was like, oh, isn't that funny? Because before I didn't have to. And this time I had to think about it. And then I deliver the placenta and I start hemorrhaging. My sister Jenny was like, she said it was just like blood was just coming out like intensely. And so my midwife grabs Pitocin because she is a nurse practitioner as well. She grabs Pitocin, gives me a shot. That's what Pitocin was actually created for, moments like this, to help the uterus close down. They give me a tincture under my tongue, and she gets in my face. She goes, Shelly, you tell your uterus to clamp down and shut off. You command your uterus to shut down and clamp off. And I was like, uterus, clamp down and shut off. And I commanded it, and then it did. And it did, and it was crazy experience. And that was nuts. And I did it. And then everything was, it was still like figuring out how to nurse a baby and then be a mom. But it was just like a mom with a toddler, which Junie was only 2 years and 2 months to the day. They were both born on the 29th of December, and Milo was a leap year. So Milo, leap year baby, doesn't get a real birthday. So we celebrate sometimes on the 28th, sometimes on the 1st. This year we did the 28th. And yeah, it's just crazy to reflect. And I've been wanting to share this birth story for so long, and I honestly didn't even really have the intention to share it today, and the universe just let it come out. And my intentions to share this story with you is that birth can teach us so much about ourselves, and whether you are a mom or you're just a human who's been birthed and you can really resonate with the experiences that us women go through. And there's a lot of women, we have friends who couldn't have babies and she had 5 miscarriages and they ended up adopting. And actually it's so crazy because his first birthday is coming up and they adopted this beautiful baby boy, and she never got to experience the birth experience, but she loves that baby exactly the same. She loves him and is this fierce, protective, amazing mom. And she didn't go through that birth experience. But even moms like that, I see her, and I've even told this to her face, that she's such an amazing mom. She's so intuitive. It's just built within you. Like, that is the most beautiful thing about being a mom, is that even if you don't think that you know what to do, you just know what to do. And I'm even just like transmuting this into how I was sharing with you earlier, that I'm building this online business that I'm like kind of scared and I'm terrified and I feel like I don't have any idea what I'm doing. I'm literally doing everything all by myself. I'm like a one-man show. I'm doing all of the creating of my website. I actually do have a friend who's going to be helping me with my website creating, and I'm really excited for her. Thank you, Chelsea. And I'm podcasting, and I'm literally my own recording set. I got a new set. I haven't used it yet. I'm like almost like you're going to soon see on Yoga Bliss with Shelly a new set. I got this beautiful white backdrop, and I have this vision to bring in my Himalayan salt lamp and some plants and just keep it clean and simple with some nature inspired, because it feels right. And that's what I'm doing. And it's like scary and I don't know where it's going to take me. And I'm coming back to this story that I'm learning about all of this online stuff. And it's like, we have to still take the steps when things are scary, whether it's a birth or it's a family experience that we don't know what is happening. And even it's crazy because I'm coming back to, it was not last week, but the week before my grandpa passed away. He's 90, Grandpa Lloyd, and I'm sending him so much love and light. And him and my Grammy have been together for like 40 plus years, since before I was born. And he's been very sick for a while, and it was like kind of this relief, but also this deep sadness, because him and my Grammy have been like friends forever. Like, they're like best friends. They're always together, and like she doesn't have him anymore, and I need to call her, and I've been procrastinating it because I almost feel like I don't know what to say, and I'm holding space for that. So it's like there's so many of these experiences in life, and it's like with the birth of my son who's now 11, and the death of my grandpa who had a beautiful, wonderful life. And I'm trying to think of, he had 5 kids. Him and my Grammy were married after my dad was in college, which my Grammy had 5 kids, and he had three girls, and one of his daughters actually passed away, and all of these grandbabies, and he's got to be around the grandbabies, and like he had a lovely life. And for me, it's just like this universe is saying, like, Shelly, you have this life, in this one life, to be Shelly Bond and to do the things that you came here to do. And I know that I have all of these ideas, and it's like sometimes like, I know that I am going to bring these things into the world, and I'm just trusting that things are showing up in my life, and they just do. They just do. Even when it's hard, or I'm running into problems with my computer program or the website, and I'm like, I don't know how to build a membership site, but I'm building a membership site. So get so excited, because I have so much inside of me, all of this that I have birthed over the past 5 years, which is so crazy. My whole life, sisters, I've been birthing things, but I have all of these things to help women who have been like me, who have struggled with severe trauma and anxiety and overwhelm. I didn't even realize that I had postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. I didn't even know what postpartum anxiety was, but I felt it every day. I sure as heck felt it. And I remember one time I heard someone talk about that, and I was like, oh my God, oh yeah, all the time, every day. And then after Milo was born, huge. Like, I had this huge moment of postpartum anxiety where we were in downtown Fort Collins, and there's literally like the right lane, a big parking median in the middle, and then here, and I had to cross the road with Milo and Junie, and I'm holding Junie here and Milo on here, and I had this vision of me dropping Milo and him getting ran over, and I was like, I can't do anything. And then I was like, you're fine. I had to say, you're fine. He's fine and safe. I held his butt. He was on his pack. He was locked in. Junie was here. We made sure those cars were clear, and we passed it. That was postpartum anxiety that I didn't talk about being sad because I always just wanted to be a strong woman until it just took me down. It ruined my life. It ruined my relationships. My husband and I almost got divorced like 3 times. And then after Jack was born, who's actually 8, he's almost 9, he was born in April. We actually literally, I got divorce papers, and I realized that it wasn't my husband as much that I hated, but it was me. It was me that I was hating. And why I'm sharing all of this with you is that I've turned that relationship around with my husband. Like, we're not perfect by any means. We have our shits and our problems, but I have just really been working on me and doing my inner work and my healing work, because I didn't realize that trauma from 13 years ago, and even before that, I had childhood wounds from my parents and even past lives that I had no idea that were haunting me every day. And then it was just like all of like that traumatic experience. It just like was like, oh yeah, you were a victim. This life is not for you. And I'm just here to share all of this with you. And I am this is really excited too, because yoga was this huge gateway to my healing journey and in my health journey. I started working out about almost 9 years ago. And then I found yoga, or yoga found me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like, you can like do your spiritual practice and be moving your body and like feel good about the human that you are. And I remember I used to do workouts like a lot. I'm just kickboxing and CrossFit, but those were always a way of self-punishment. It was a way of like, Shelly, get stronger. You need to do this. You're not strong enough. And yoga was a way that I could nurture and love myself and show up for myself and be strong and healthy on the outside, and also feel good inside and allow myself permission to feel all of that shit that I was experiencing. And I am creating right now 11 practices for the beginner. And whether you're a beginner or you've been practicing yoga, we all can benefit from a beginner mindset, because here I am almost 9 years into my practice and coming back to those basic foundational ways, because sometimes we get a little bit in our head like, oh, I'm such a great yogi, I can do everything. So for me, it's really allowing me to come back to my roots. I'm just really excited because I've heard of so many women, and even I have 2 of my sisters who are like, I don't really like yoga, but I really like the way you teach. So if you maybe are interested in yoga or like yoga sometimes, I am creating these 11 practices for the beginner. I also have these huge plans. I'm creating a whole course, like a master class on forgiveness. I'm also creating a whole master class course on compassion and self-compassion, and it's going to include yoga asana, it's going to include meditation, it's going to include sound healing and Reiki energy work. All that's going to be pre-recorded, my beautiful soul sisters, so you can access it on your time in your space. Because for me, a home practice was the only way that I could ever practice me. And I had to start waking up early, even breastfeeding. Jack literally breastfed every single morning to my meditation practice, and he would fall asleep on me, and that's how I showed up. And then maybe he'd fall asleep, and then I would just set him beside me, and I would still do my yoga practice. And that's how my self-care, my yoga practice started, because I was at this breaking point. I was so sick of just feeling so anxious and so defeated. I literally had this mantra. I remember washing dishes, and we moved like into 5 different houses, just looking out the window thinking, this is as good as my life gets. This is as good as, and I just felt gross. I didn't like myself. I didn't like my husband. And it's just shifted, and it's a huge story to share in a few minutes, but I just really hope that my beautiful soul sister, no matter what your experiences are with birth, with life, with death, is that they are here as our great teachers. They are here to guide us in our lives only when we're open to receiving those messages. And I really do feel like everything is a lesson for us, which sounds a little funny. I remember the first times I heard that, like, everything is here to help us grow. And sometimes even that growth is painful. It's a struggle. It's hard. Like, it was hard the other week when I was so sick laying in bed. It's hard for me to lay in bed. I'm definitely one of these people that's like, be productive and work all the time, or you're lazy and you're not doing it right. I know that I can be one of the hardest people ever on myself, but also I know that it's up to me to take care of myself and to nurture myself. And even this beautiful practice that I've adopted in the last few years is mothering myself, because not all of us have mothers who can mother us or did mother us in the way that we needed them to. And that's why you have you. You have you to do all of those things. You don't have to look out there for other people to do it. It starts first within here. And when you start loving and honoring yourself, and when you're needing a nap, instead of beating yourself up, you say, I'm going to give myself permission to go take this nap. Or I'm going to give myself permission to ask my family for help, or to ask my husband or my spouse for help, because I don't have to do it all alone. And that was something that for a long time was always like, I have to do everything alone. I'm a strong woman. I have to do this. Like, I am a strong woman, but I'm also a vulnerable woman. And I'm also a woman who has needs. And if I don't express them to the people around me, if I don't ask for help, then I'm not going to get it. And so, wow, our self-care practice of today, thank you for showing up. I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so grateful to share my story. It's a very vulnerable story, and I know that there can be a lot of judgment, but I am not in a space of judgment right now. I'm just in a space of love and acceptance and openness to share me and my raw, real truths to help you explore what yours are. And I really just encourage you, my beautiful soul sister, to find growth in your difficult times. And so right now you can maybe you could take a moment to feel into your body, or I really recommend maybe journaling. If writing is so healing and so helpful to write. Right now I'm struggling with. What are you struggling with? So get that journal. Got a million of them. Get your journal. Get your pen. I don't have a pen. I have a feather. I have this. And write down what I'm struggling with right now. I am struggling right now with what? What is it? Whatever it is. I know. I'm struggling with a lot of stuff on the computer. Well, what can I do to help me lessen that? I know for me, I'm actually learning how to delegate my month, my week, and my days. And I'm giving myself a schedule. I'm also being a little flexible because life happens. It was my son's birthday. And then Milo came home from school yesterday, the day after his birthday, with a really bad headache. And my afternoon got kind of shot. And so I'm writing down the things that I need to do tangibly, that are tangible, that are realistic, that I can do. And instead of thinking of the huge, big picture that's overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, I'm launching this membership site, I'm launching this website, it's kind of overwhelming, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure out how I can find out how to do that. I'm going to research online, which guess what? It gives me goosebumps, because every single thing that I felt like I don't know how to do, I have learned from YouTube. So I say, thank you, freaking YouTube, for being our online university that will literally teach us how to do anything that it is that we desire how to do. Anything within reason, obviously, that's healthy and great. It teaches us, and we can figure it out, and it gives me goosebumps, because the only limitations that you put on yourselves are yourself. But did I say that correctly? I'm going to say it as if me, you say it as if you. The only limitations I put on myself are the ones that I choose to put on myself. The only limitations that I put on myself are the ones that I choose. So I choose to break through those, and think of the times where you're like confident and you're like, yeah, why are you confident? Because you know about that. You kind of know what to expect. You're like, I know, I've got this. And when we're not confident, we're like, oh, I don't have the knowledge. I haven't been here. It's murky waters. Fake it till you make it. That's what I do. Look it up, find a YouTube channel. Oh, that one does not resonate. Find a new one, and then find a new one until it actually walks you through. I'm not kidding you. I had like some IT problems on my computer. This guy taught me. I know. I am expanding that I know more about computers. He literally taught me how to code on my computer, and I was like, this is so confusing. But then I just took step by step. Oh, I figured it out. So you can figure it out too, my beautiful soul sisters. I love you. I'm so grateful for you. Please head over to iTunes and leave Yoga Bliss with Shelly a 5-star rating and review. It means the universe to me. You can find free classes on YouTube, Yoga Bliss with Shelly on Instagram. What are we now? Yoga Bliss with Shelly and Shelly Vaughn on Facebook. I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. And please, I just encourage you to explore what it is that you're struggling with right now. And just be open to what are you here to grow from those struggles? How can you grow from those? How can you transmute that into your strength? Because the pain that you're feeling today is the strength that you experience tomorrow. I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. Please share this with a woman who you feel like could use this message. Share it. Sharing is what I'm all about. I love you.